In an unboxing video from some time ago, I got this. So, well, obviously this moves slightly away from our usual theme of the channel, although I suppose you could also have used it as a percussive weapon at some point. Still not a sharp blade anywhere to be seen here. But what we have here is a percussion pistol. I have no idea whatsoever about where it may be from, how to date it. I have to say I have little to no experience with antique firearms, so this is kind of me venturing into maybe a new passion. The reason I bought it, and you'll see it's in quite rough shape, is as a restoration project. So I thought, why not? It looks really in bad shape, but it also looks like something that with a little bit of care may be something cool and fun to have, and also just a nice project to work on for me and maybe for you to watch, and maybe we can all learn something together. So what we're going to do in this video is simply take a close-up look. It's kind of a, I guess, diagnostics video. So just take a look at the whole thing, look at the details, look at some aspects of it, and try and figure out what will need to be done in order to restore it. And then in future videos, I'm going to hopefully tackle the different steps of restoration. And if I'm really lucky and nothing goes wrong, and with hopefully the support of any people with more experience among you watching this, we'll probably, hopefully, end up with a nice, decent condition percussion pistol once we're done. So one thing I want to mention before I start this whole thing is that I absolutely appreciate and understand that restoring antiques, like firearms, there's a whole bunch of do's and don'ts, and it's something that you shouldn't just approach like willy-nilly. However, I also think that when trying to learn a new technique, when trying to learn a new skill, you are bound to make mistakes. And I think it's better to make mistakes on something that you can afford to make them on, rather than damage something that is then invaluable or where you can cause serious historical damage. So this pistol is the hopefully low historical value object. And I mean that in a very respectful way. I still want to be as careful with it as I can, but this is the object where I can afford to do some exploration. I can afford to make some minor mistakes without the fear of causing irreparable damage. And the reason why I say that is that, well, let's look at it close up and discover it together. Okay, so changes can always be traumatic. I hope you enjoy pistols as much as you do swords. But also on the technical side, changing stuff while you're filming can be sometimes tricky. In this case, it's actually the opposite, because as you'll see, well, the scale of the pistol is much smaller than a sword, so it fits in frame better. It requires less moving around in my small workspace here. And, well, also it has the added advantage, perhaps, that I don't risk poking myself or cutting myself on sharp edges. What we're going to do here is start, well, I guess taking a close look at this pistol and kind of, figuring out what we might need to do, and, well, just looking at its general condition. So this is actually kind of an open work I'm doing together with you, I suppose. If you spot things that you know about and I didn't mention, things that you think I should do, just let me know in the comments. That's, I'm going to appreciate that very much. Let's start by taking a look at its appearance. It's a fairly standard percussion pistol, I would say. I don't know what a non-standard percussion pistol would be, but this looks all kind of typical to me. We have a metal pommel. I'm not sure if it's a pommel, actually. That's probably already the first mistake I'm making. Butt plate, I suppose. Anyway, it goes up to here. It's rather nice, and it's held in by a screw, and it's a little wobbly, so that's something we're gonna have to take a look at. The plate here, the mechanism plate, is, well, feels fairly solid. It's definitely corroded some and damaged, but you see some remains of engraved lines and decoration. Now, as for the mechanism, the trigger, well, let me show you. It's doesn't really work. So it is connected. You'll see when I pull the hammer, when I cock the hammer here, it does tense up the trigger. So the spring here is somehow working. What is not working, so what we're going to have to look into here, is the catch or the release or the spring, I guess, that holds this up. I don't know the technical wording for all this stuff. It's something I'm going to learn along the way. But basically, the hammer cocks, the trigger is connected to a spring, but when you pull it, the hammer doesn't fall down. So that's something we're going to look into. Also, you may have noticed that when we cock the hammer here, or pull it back here, the whole plate here kind of moves within the wood, and I think that's because there is a crack here in the wood. Not sure how deep that goes. We'll figure out if it's kind of a crack that runs all around here or what. But yeah, that's something to look into. So what I see here, I think, is when it's in this position, there's some tension here on the wood. Something is kind of pushing on the frame. Anyway, speaking of the frame, we can see there's some wood worm damage. It does not seem to be recent. Like it's had time to patinate together with the wood. So I'm not sure there's a cause for concern there. Here the trigger guard, I suppose I would call it, kind of runs down along the grip. This is a very cool little detail, I think. It looks very beautiful. But you'll see it doesn't seat perfectly. This is maybe because the wood contracted a bit over time. Moving forward, let's keep here on the wood side. You'll notice that the ramrod is missing. You'll see there's a whole bunch of gunk in here and dirt. It has these metal fittings. This one is actually damaged, but let's say everything is there apart from the ramrod. And as we move to the tip, you'll see that the wood here is actually fairly damaged. Here you have a big crack that runs right down. I think it runs, well, no, it doesn't run through. It goes up to this hole. So yeah, that's gonna need some care and fixing. Here is also what's concerning. This whole piece is barely holding together. It's all cracked. Some pieces are missing here. And the reason why I'm pretty confident at the idea that I want to restore this, even though I may not have the experience to do it, is that you can see there's active rust under here. So this gun, this barrel, is currently being actively damaged, irreparably damaged by rust. So whatever intervention I do here, of course, unless it's painting it some neon color and sandblasting it, I think it will still be an improvement on the current state it's in. Now, one really cool thing I think about it here is this decoration you see. Now, you can't really tell because it's pretty patinated, but this decoration blends wood and metal. So this frame you see on the outside here is actually wood, being like it's woodwork, but the center part here is metal. So I find that to be pretty beautiful. You'll see the decoration continues all the way up to the ramrod fittings, which were also slightly decorated. Now, moving on to the barrel, we see it's held in place by a screw there next to the hammer. We see some nice woodwork here where the housing of the barrel ends. And I think we can see it was rather finely engraved. You still see vague traces of those lines and decorations. No maker's mark that I can see anywhere. You'll see the barrel here is corroded, but not looking too bad, I would say, given it's a few hundred years old. Also, it moves from a, I assume, hexagon section here. Then we have this ring, and then it moves into a round barrel. The barrel itself is non-rifled. I can't really get it into great frame here, but if you look inside it with a flashlight, it's not rifled. And if we move to the other side of the gun here, you'll see the other plate of the mechanism. And this is interesting because I think this gun must have been really beautiful at some point, because you can see what's remaining of some engraving decoration here. But then, of course, it's been completely corroded on this side. So you can see how much damage it's gone through. So anyway, this is the gun, and a few focusing issues aside, I think we've got a good look at it. My first guess, what I plan to do here is first try and take it all apart. You saw probably 4 or 5 big screws that are holding everything together. So what I'll try to do is delicately remove those, see if everything comes apart, get a look at the mechanics, see if I can understand how to make this work again, clean up all the metal parts, whether using chelation, because maybe it's easier to clean, just dip all of the metal into a EDTA solution, and that should hopefully clean it up really easily. An alternative way could be with a toothbrush and Autosol or something like that, we'll see, or oil. But kind of clean up the metal without polishing it. I don't want to make it new. There's no need for that. And then I would assume the wood is going to need some work, maybe some glue. I'm not going to like fill it in. I'm not going to add pieces like here or anything, but probably glue it, clamp it in place and make sure it's nice and sturdy. Maybe make a substitute ramrod, and that's kind of it. I don't think the wood needs a lot of work in terms of, as I mentioned, the woodworm doesn't seem active. And I don't want to remove the color. This is a really beautiful color. So in the end, maybe it's just going to be a little bit of oil, a little bit of glue on the cracked parts, and oil it up, put it back together, and hopefully it's going to look way better than it does now. If you have any tips, suggestions, if I said something that absolutely raises red flags and you think I should not do, or if I missed something that you think I should absolutely do, just leave it in the comments and we'll take care of it in the next video. So thank you for watching, and yeah, see you soon.